Welcome to episode 1 of the Emerging Workplace Leaders podcast, supporting the Young Leaders of the Year Award sponsored by Bowden Group. Today, we'll be talking to Kristian from Sodexo, also the co-chair of the Emerging Workplace Leaders Committee. Let's dive into this inspiring conversation. Welcome everyone to the Emerging Workplace Leaders podcast. I'm Sophie, your host today, and I'm joined with Kristian, who's part of the EWL committee and also works for Sodexo.
Correct, so, yeah, pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the podcast. So first of all, I thought it'd be good to just introduce who you are to the audience and what and where you've kind of come from in your background. So I've got a few notes on you. So hopefully I'm not telling you anything you didn't already know.
Yeah, sure, go for it, yeah. I'll correct you if you're wrong.
So you started off your career in real estate as a lettings manager, so not quite in the FM world.
Yeah, I sort of worked my way up within lettings.
You've gained 12 years of FM sector experience since.
Correct, yeah.
And you've become an expert in account management, P&L negotiation, budgeting and public speaking.
Have you been on my LinkedIn?
Can you
so
tell?
my title is Senior Account Manager.
Okay.
So I currently work for Sodexo and I manage the Mars contract.
And you've won multiple internal awards at Sodexo.
Yeah, I've won, I think,
right?
4 Sodexo internal awards.
Wow. And you were the Young Leader of the Year Award winner in 2018.
Correct, yeah.
And you've been since then a committee member of the Emerging Workplace Leaders, and as of this year, become now co-chairs.
That's right, yeah. So after winning, I was obviously really keen to, having been part of the process and getting to meet some of the guys, I was really keen to get involved. And then, yes, this year, Phil Mattis stepped down as co-chair, so I've then stepped up to join Bianca. Really excited to lead the committee and take things forward.
Amazing. So not only that, you also hold a BA in political science and government and a level 4 BTEC diploma in facilities management.
That's right, yeah.
So you know your stuff.
Well, I'd like to think so.
First of all, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell me a bit more about you and like where you've come from to where you are now?
I don't know where to begin with that question. So what, from a career perspective or personal life or both? Or
it's quite nice to know something a bit personal about you as well.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm, a motivated professional in the workplace. I enjoy facilities management. Definitely not what I saw myself going into. I'm a bit of a raver in my spare time. I like to have a bit of fun. I actually finished working a season in Ibiza and came back having finished university and hadn't got a clue what I wanted to do at all with my life. And it was actually my uncle offered me an opportunity to work in his little estate agents in a town called Hinckley. I did that for a bit, sort of quite enjoyed it, moved from there into lettings, estate agency, worked my way within that environment from being negotiator, viewing agent, valuer, lettings manager. Did that for a bit and then sort of started to become aware more from sort of managing apartments and stuff around facilities management, block management, that sort of stuff. Saw an opportunity actually to manage a couple of student accommodation buildings in Loughborough and went into that really. Now, I only did that for a short, brief stint of time. And then unfortunately, I was struck down with quite a rare form of cancer. So I think I learned a lot from that because I have to obviously give up everything I was doing, moving to hospital, have intense chemotherapy, all that sort of stuff. And I survived the treatment. And I think that sort of brought me back stronger with more of an attitude of you only live once sort of attitude or live in the max sort of attitude. So since then, I've really thrown myself into different things, getting involved with different groups, public speaking. I sort of took the view that anything I was scared of, that's exactly the sort of thing that I should be doing. So I've done skydiving, I've done all sorts of things, but I was lucky enough actually to be selected when I moved from the student accommodation roles. I moved into I moved into managing student accommodation. So it's within the FM sort of broader sphere, I think you'd say. But the interesting thing about that was actually that I never labelled it as being facilities management, really. We didn't within the industry. I was an accommodation manager, but we were doing hard and soft services. We just didn't know that's what it was called. It wasn't the sort of vernacular that was used within student accommodation. Worked for a number of companies, Mainstay, CRM, Unite Students. And I then saw an opportunity to Sodexo were just starting a new lettings division, student living by Sodexo, and I was sort of brought in with my expertise and that to sort of spend a year writing the procedures manual to get the offer off the ground, in addition to managing a site in Leicester. So that was great. I won one of my internal awards for Sodexo was Innovation and Change Manager for that. And it was around that time, a couple of really life-changing things happened for me. One was that I was nominated in 2018 for the PFM Awards for Young Leader of the Year, which is obviously part of what I'm here to talk about today, being committee co-chair. And that was, a robust process. I was nominated by my manager, and I'm really very thankful to him to this day for doing that. It was something I thought, oh no, I can't do this. I certainly can't win it. It was a robust process. I went through it, and life-changing really, because when I was at the brewery, which is where the awards are held each year, and at the PFM Awards, I certainly didn't expect to win. And I remember just the fear of going up on stage. And it was the chap off of Match of the Day 2, Dan, I can't remember his surname, but you'd recognise him from the television anyway, because there's always a celebrity host. And straight away I was stood there in front of the whole, I didn't expect him to ask me a question. And I just thought I'd go up and say thank you, and take the award. And then he started asking me questions.
Oh no.
And he put a mic to my face and said, so where's the industry heading over the next 5 years? And I was like stood there in front of the whole industry, cobbled some answer together around, like Internet of Things and asset management. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I went all red in the face and I wasn't expecting it. But then I came off stage and I just was really relieved, and messaged my mum on WhatsApp, and she was really happy that I'd done it. So that was a life-changing event for me, because I got a lot of publicity, and it played well externally and internally within my own business. And I was then really lucky. I would say the second life-changing event for me was I was selected as the only person in my business, and Sodexo is a business of circa 40,000 people in the UK, worldwide, something like 430,000, something like that.
Wow.
It's a big business. The only person within the UK business to do this bespoke leadership program called Ivy House, which I can't praise or plug enough really, because it's led by the renowned coach Elka Edwards, who is coached many sort of top CEOs, and she's for example Richard Branson's life coach. I was really lucky to be selected. I was the only person, not only from Sodexo, that had ever this. I'm sure it's changed since then, but the only first person from FM to go on this course, and there was people there from Goldman Sachs and Citibank and different Lloyds of London, all these different companies, different sectors, and to sort of mix with hypo talent really from different sectors and go on this leadership course, which was 4 sort of 2-day masterclasses, and then obviously follow-up work with coaches and stuff in between. And it was really good. And I think I learned an awful lot from that as well, in terms of leadership, and particularly in terms of soft skills, because I think there's a lot of lack in soft skills. And that's a key really in terms of development. So
if we just rewind back.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking a lot, aren't
I? No, not at all, not at all. Like, it's really interesting hearing about how you've gone from uni to becoming into the position you are today. Obviously, you went through a really, really difficult period in your life, and you must have been quite young at the time.
Yeah. So, the cancer? Yeah. I was 22, I think.
That must have been really challenging. So had you just started kind of in FM, even though you didn't know it was in FM?
Yeah, literally. I'm going to say I was only 3 months into managing 2 different student accommodation buildings. I was only 3 months into that. So it was my first FM role, but as I said, it was an accommodation manager role. It wasn't, at the time, I didn't see it as being part of FM. I still wasn't really clear on what was FM and what wasn't FM. We didn't, as I say, talk in that sort of language until I moved into a big provider like Sodexo, and then everyone talks that way, But yeah, it was a real shock to the system. Just came up overnight like a big tennis ball on my neck, and I actually went to hospital by myself because I just assumed that it was just a cyst or something. So I didn't even tell my family about it, and they were like, is there anyone with you, and you need to move immediately into hospital and all this sort of stuff. So it was a real shock, but I always believed I was going to get better. and I would go on to have more experiences, and I was too young to die and that sort of stuff. So I came out, and the business I worked for at the time, Mainstay, were really good, and although they couldn't keep that exact position open because of the amount of time, they did sort of guarantee me a role when I got back, and then I came back and took straight over into the building. So it was really good actually in terms of they were really nice and sent my mum flowers and did loads of nice things.
Oh,
So
that's really nice.
I respect them for that, and I just sort of bounced back into it, and it gave me a lot of time to think, and I certainly thought that I want to push myself career-wise and not be scared of things.
Yeah, so you returned back, didn't you? So it must have been something you really did enjoy in them first 3 months to then go back to that. What was your period out of work?
All in all, I think I was probably out of work about 4.5, 5 months. So it's a very intense. Some treatments, these things can go on for a couple of years, but with mine, because it's such a fast-spreading cancer, they really had to zap you a sustained period of time, and thankfully it worked. I came into the workplace. But at that point, I was just glad to actually get back into work because, it sounds weird, but obviously
normality.
Months of laying in beds and stuff, you just want to
of course.
be in work rather than doing that, obviously.
And do you think that's helped you shape the person who you are today?
Definitely, because I think it's made me become more daring and just sort of taking the view that I might get hit by a bus tomorrow, so push yourself, put yourself into experiences. I used to be afraid of public speaking and networking. As an example, there were two things I'd steer myself away from, whereas nowadays I'm quite comfortable doing either. And I think that part of that is I have like sort of the values that I set for myself. So my values are to be daring, dependable, resilient, respectful, compassionate, and composed. And I went through a process of sort of working out what my values were. I was trying to get in for 4, ended up with about 6, but that's what I try and live my life by, both in and out of work. So, for example, if I've got a decision to make, I will kind of think about it through the lens of my values as well, and think, well, what would be the daring thing to do? And am I being dependable as a friend if I don't do that? I'm resilient, compassionate, etc. So I think having values is a good help to really take some time and think about what your values are and play around with them and change them until you think, that's what my core values are. And I think that
Attention listeners, let's take a break for a second. The Emerging Workplace Leaders podcast is brought to you today in support of the Young Leaders of the Year Award, sponsored by Bowden Group. Ready to be recognised as a leader? This is your chance. Apply today with your 1,500 word submission to emergingworkplaceleaders@outlook.com.
Being daring is a value to me.
Do you think you put a bit of pressure on yourself now?
In what regard? In terms of how I think?
Yeah.
Do I put pressure on myself? I would like to progress. I'm recognised as a hypo, which I think is you expected to go 2 levels high within
it's not a bad thing.
5 years or something like that, or 3 to 5 years. So there is a certain amount of expectation, I guess, but I quite enjoy it.
Yeah. No, it's not a bad thing to do that.
I can see myself going higher within the business for certain.
That was really interesting and really insightful into like how you've kind of been on that journey through your career and personally, and how it's kind of shaped you to who you are today. And you're now sitting here as the co-chair, and we're here today doing the first few episodes of the podcast. And we thought we'd start off the podcast with you.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So what do you hope we can achieve through this?
I think the podcast really is around, there's a few things to it. One is obviously highlighting the awards process, which I think our episodes kind of probably touches on more than perhaps some of what the other episodes do. I think it's about highlighting the process, but also highlighting the industry and what it is. Because as I alluded to, I didn't have a clue of what facilities management was.
Neither did I.
I think most people don't. A lot of people have a tendency to fall into it. That might be changing more nowadays with grad schemes and stuff, but certainly I had no plans of going into FM. And I think I'm hoping that we'll get a broader reach enough that it'll actually start to perhaps people, there's through avenues such as LinkedIn or perhaps YouTube, it will help in terms of getting the knowledge out there what FM is, and perhaps draw more people into it, because it is a fun industry. You do get involved. Often the FM providers themselves aren't household names. They're big companies, and often they're stock listed, some of the larger ones, but stock market listed. But usually they're behind the scenes supporting the bigger known brands. Most big companies work with an FM provider. At least over half of them work with a big FM providers. So we're sort of behind the scenes, doing all the bits to support that business, and it's interesting. And I work on the Mars Crunch. I find that interesting. I assumed Mars just made chocolate. Actually, that's
definitely
only a small part of what they do. And then you start to learn a little bit about other industries that you support as well.
I think that's so true, and also from like a marketing perspective for me, like when we went to Mars, I was like fangirling, and I was there like, wow, this is so cool. Like, look at all of these brands here. And like, we were in like the whiskers
the Paddington
room.
offices.
Paddington offices. Yeah. And like, I was just like, as somebody in the marketing industry, I have such a different look on these buildings than you guys. So you guys probably go in more like, this is cool, but it's a building, and it, from the FM perspective of a building. Mm-hmm. Whereas like from the marketing perspective, you're like, oh, this is amazing. And I was like walking around like, I need to take a photo.
All these household names.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like that's something that a lot of probably young people who haven't even considered or understood the FM sector need to like kind of know about, because if somebody was to tell me that joining Bowden Group, for example, would mean that I would get the opportunities to go to all these cool places, see all these amazing buildings, and actually see what goes on behind the scenes, I think I would have been like, wow, yes. But I mean, I love it there anyway. But that was just something which, I'd kind of never expected to happen as being part of FM until you're actually in it and understand a lot about it. So I think it's really important. Definitely. So why should people care about emerging workplace leaders? I know it's quite a big question, but...
So to me, the emerging workplace leaders, I think it's a group that was set up essentially to give a platform to young and aspiring talent within our sector. So I think if you are within our sector, I think they should care about emerging workplace leaders, because it's an opportunity to get involved with young like-minded professionals, and we are obviously open to new members joining and becoming part of the committee or a wider membership, and that's a great opportunity. We don't just do organise Young Leader of the Year Award. We do things like this in terms of podcasts, and we do blogs. We organise other sorts of events. We've done charity events in the past, networking events, and it's great from a networking perspective as well. And I think to those who are outside of our sector, it still can be a useful point. I mean, we've got podcasts planned on D&I, we've got podcasts planned on sustainability and AI as well, and there'll be some nuggets of information there that will be useful to everyone. I think it's about just really sort of, as I say, giving a platform to young and aspiring talent, but also highlighting what FM is to those who don't understand what it is.
Hope the podcast will benefit listeners.
As I say, I think there'll be something in there for everyone. We've got a number of topics planned. We're going to get key speakers. We're lucky that we all, the committee members work for a broad range of different providers, and we have access and networks to senior people within those businesses. So we'll look to draw more and more people in over time, and I look forward to it developing and growing, and the profile building. As the profile builds, we'll bring in more senior speakers as well. So.
And I think it would also be really good for like the audience perspective, if there's kind of something they want to hear about, or they feel like it's really passionate. That's something that would definitely try and get on to ask questions about.
Definitely. I think we're open to thoughts from our viewers as well in terms of topics that we'd like to cover. So
we're going to do a quick fire round.
So it's time for quick fire round. Each guest has 30 seconds to answer each question. There's 5 questions. Let's see what they can answer in 30 seconds. Let's go.
So it's quick fire time, no cheating. You've got 30 seconds to answer each of these questions about the Young Leaders of the Year Award.
Okay, I'll try my best.
So, right, I'll ask the question and then I'll press go on the timer. Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about the award?
So essentially there's 3 stages. There's the written submission, which we're launching here today. Then there will be a judging panel where we'll have some high-profile judges, and that'll be a really cool, snazzy location. And then there'll be the finalist event, which is usually a bit of a broader reach in terms of more people attending. Usually that's 2 or 3 finalists. And then we go through to the actual awards night itself, which is at the brewery in London in November.
Amazing. You had literally 2 seconds left.
That's good.
And the next one is, what's the criteria for taking part?
I think the criteria for taking part is that you're young and aspirational. You are potentially recognised as talent or hyper talent within your business, that you either want to put yourself forward, or perhaps you've got a manager that would like to put you forward, or another senior leader that's recognised you as talent. I think it's a great opportunity really to grow and develop.
Well, that one was easy as well. I feel like I'm going to have to cut these down to 15 seconds. Everybody's doing this too easily. What are the benefits of winning the award? You've obviously highlighted some of the personal benefits that this has given you, so maybe that's actually a great way for you to answer.
I think, it certainly helped develop my career in terms of profile. I went into a account manager role not long after that. I also was lucky enough to be recognised as the same people put forward onto a very high-profile leadership course, which I imagine wouldn't have been cheap. So I'm quite lucky in that regard as well. But it's great for your profile, great for networking, and plays well internally and externally.
5 seconds left. And the final question is, where does the award finalists take place? Give us some of the deets.
Okay, so the awards this year will be taking place, as it has done in previous years, at the brewery in London. And we do have, as ever, a celebrity host, and that is Claudia Winkleman.
Yes, for the traitors, that's how I know her now.
So if you Google her, I'm sure you recognise her face. But there's always a celebrity host, so I look forward to it.
So in terms of, obviously, you've been a judge as well. How long have you been a judge for?
So I've always judged the written submissions.
Okay.
I've yet to be a panel judge, although I think I will be a panel judge this year.
Yeah.
So we'll most likely be joined by myself, Bianca as the other co-chair, and then I would imagine usually 3 or 4 judges that we've brought in as industry experts. We've also in previous years we've had sponsors at times involved as well. So that would be the judging panel stage.
So you haven't done the judging panel stage before, so that's quite exciting.
I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that.
So obviously you've looked at the written submissions now for quite a number of years, I presume. So you must
that's right,
be able to pick up some trends in what's something that you guys are really looking for when people apply.
I think we don't have a set rationale in terms of what we're looking for. Obviously, we're looking to be impressed. People are different. Sometimes people write their own submissions. Sometimes their businesses support and help with them. It's good to see a bit of the real person. Don't be afraid to inject a bit of humour into it, some images. The written submission limit is 1,500 words, and that is open now. So please do apply, following the details, which I believe we're going to put on a ticker at the bottom, if we could. Do get applying. So 1,500 words written submission, just about yourself, about your trajectory, what you've done, where you're going, and why you think that you're perfect to be nominated for the Young Leader of the award.
And is there anything, what advice would you give them? What was in yours, for example?
I think being authentic, showing a bit of the real self. I think I'm trying to recall exactly what was in mine now, and I think it was certainly injecting a bit of humour. I certainly remember the later stages that I was being a bit silly and a bit playful and doing impressions.
Bit
and
of humour and personality.
A bit of personality, a bit of not be afraid to show a bit of vulnerability, and authenticity. So
Amazing. And if you were to give a young person some advice for taking part in this award and applying, what advice would you give?
I think be real. As I say, just really what I've just said, to be fair. I think being authentic, showing a bit of the real you, not to be too corporate in the application. It is an opportunity to talk about what you've done and who you've worked for, but it's not necessarily an opportunity for the business to, it's not a PR exercise for the business that you work for.
Amazing. Have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, get applying. The more submissions, the better. We will take every single one seriously. and not just think about yourself, but also have you got any colleagues, any co-workers, or anyone within your business you think would benefit from applying for this award. Please do go ahead and get them to apply or apply for them. We look forward to receiving all your submissions.
And thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of the new Emerging Workplace Leaders podcast. We're really excited for the upcoming episodes with a variety of different hosts. So make sure you stay tuned, and we'll be back very soon with the next episode. Thank you. And that concludes our insightful conversation with Kristian Trend. Remember, this podcast is proudly supporting the Young Leaders of the Year Award, sponsored by Bowden Group. If you or someone you know is a young visionary making an impact, don't miss your chance to apply by emailing emergingworkplaceleaders@outlook.com with your 1,500 word submission. Join us next time for episode 2, which will be featuring James Bradley, the CEO of Churchill Group, as we dive into his fascinating journey from graduate to CEO in just 11 years. Thank you for listening, and remember to come back for another exciting episode.